Hi, I'm Colin Shawn, CEO of CopperTree Solutions. Today I'm here with our VCIO, Matthew Hutchinson, and we're going to explore the possibilities of digital transformation for small and medium-sized organizations. One of the trends we see today is organizations really looking for ways to better leverage technology in their organizations. So as we think about that digital transformation, what does that mean to you, Matthew, as you think about how we're working with our clients?
Digital transformation to me is a process of looking at all of the internal functions and processes within an organization, and then looking at what technologies are available, be they hardware, software, are available in order to help automate or help increase the throughput on those processes. So it's transitioning our processes from manual to digital whenever it's possible to gain benefit.
So why do you think that's been a kind of a thing recently, or why is there such a focus on that right now?
Yeah, its popularity right now is driven by the fact that most CEOs or most senior executives are aware that better is out there. They're just not sure exactly what better looks like. So in order to gain efficiencies that every business needs to be constantly striving towards, you really have to know how to apply technology to your business processes. It's the easiest way to make a transformative change in your business.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that there's a lot of organizations that could be leveraging technology much more than they are. We see that regularly as we talk to different organizations. A lot of people just don't know what's possible. And I think it's when you start looking at what's possible, it's amazing what's out there and what can be done.
Yeah, exactly. The conversations usually start with sort of a did you know that this can be done in a certain way using leveraging technology to make a part of the business grow faster. And that usually snowballs into, well, what else can we do? And the reality is almost everything there's a technology impact upon every aspect of the business that the CEOs are trying to run. So once the discussion begins, it usually snowballs on its own inertia towards, hey, let's look at everything. There's got to be a better way to do it all. And that's almost always the case, that there is a better way to perform most of the functions that are currently manual in an organization.
So what are some examples of things that digital transformation might do for an organization?
The big deliverables for a digital transformation start with streamlining workflows before we even get to considering what we can process automate. If you don't understand how information flows through your business now, and the interactions between different people, and that information or those processes aren't documented, you can't begin to automate a process that no one's really clear about. So a lot of the benefits at the beginning stage of a digital transformation is forcing business owners to actually document the way things work now. And a lot of times during that process, just weaknesses just materialize because the light's been shined on them. So you see how things are working now. And before we even bother to try and automate it, we get a better understanding of exactly who does what and how information moves. And then, the process automation is the next step. So we understand our processes, the way they work. How do we take these processes and automate them? What tools do I need and what process changes do I need to put into effect in order to make something that took 2 hours a day take 5 minutes a day, for example? And then tying systems together is the idea of you may have disparate systems that do part of or solve part of the problem. And once you've got your workflows documented and streamlined, and we've identified areas that we can automate, then we look at what tools you're currently using, what tools are available, and try and get them down to the most concise group of tools that we can use in order to make the transition process as easy as possible and to make sure that all of our systems are talking to each other.
So we work with a lot of different organizations, but do you have a specific example maybe of something that we've done or that's been done in one of our client organizations?
We've taken a client from a very manual process of literally having invoices stuck on those little paper invoice spires and sending pieces of paper down to the accounting office to have them manually key orders in, and taking them to a complete cloud automation system whereby the driver in a truck that's doing a delivery updates where he is. When the delivery is made, the customer's automatically billed. When the billing's put through, when the payment's made, the order's automatically closed. So it's pretty easy in some cases to take a very, very manual process and revolutionize it to the point where it's unrecognizable in terms of how the digital transformation affects the business. So you eliminate, in that scenario like that, you can eliminate so many manual processes. And the goal there of eliminating those processes is delivering your goods, materials, services to your customers in a much more efficient, much more streamlined manner.
As a business leader, what are the benefits of going down this path and really leveraging technology?
Some of the biggest benefits are obvious cost benefits. So we have manual processes that obviously have costs associated with them. Anytime we can avoid a manual process, we're reducing a cost. Also, and equally important, if we're delivering services or better from our customers' perspective, then the internal work we do in a digital transformation is typically immediately apparent to your client base or your customer base. They see that things happen faster, more accurately, that there's less headaches, and that they have to invest less energy from their own staff in working with you as a customer. So, the benefits they ripple through an organization. The most important thing for most businesses that go through a digital transformation is they're delivering better services, significantly better services to their clients, and they're spending less money in order to deliver those significantly better services.
Yeah, so ultimately it's all about solving business problems. I've heard you say this many times to people. Don't come to me with what you think the solution might be. Just let me know what the business problem is, and we'll figure out the technology solution to solve that problem.
Yes, exactly. People try, if business leaders try and sort of pre-estimate what the answers might be, really that effort there is kind of boxing yourself in before you've even started the conversation. The best thing to say is it has to be faster to go from an order to production. I have no idea how, but it has to be faster because we're very manual. And then leave the work of understanding how that works and what tools we need to implement in order to make that process better. Leave it to us. You're the experts. Our clients are the experts on how their businesses operate and what results they need to get out of any change that we initiate. It's our job to look at the results they want, the process they have, and then make technology recommendations. And when we come back to those with those technology recommendations, we're focused on clearly showing the benefits and making sure people clearly understand the work and the costs involved in them, so then they can make a business decision. This cost will give me these results. That's a good decision.
Thanks for joining us as we talked about the possibilities of digital transformation. Please visit our website at coppertreesolutions.ca to discover CopperTree today.